Good evening. The meeting of the Business License Commission is called to order at 6:02. We begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, which is occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrieleño, Tongva, and Gabrieleño Kij people. Vice Chair Barry, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, let us begin with roll call. May I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Christian?
Present. Also, I'm employed by a public entity other than well, not employed by the commission, so my employer has asked me to clarify that I volunteer, I don't accept the stipend that's ordinarily afforded to commissioners, and I don't provide legal counsel or advice to the commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Cockrum?
Here.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
Present.
Commissioner LeBron Boyd?
Present.
Commissioner Yusupov?
Present.
Vice Chair Barry?
Present.
And Chair Volin.
Present.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
There are no changes.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Yusupov and seconded by Commissioner Eisenberg. Can we get a vote? Roll call.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Cockrum?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
Aye.
Commissioner LeBron Boyd?
Aye.
Commissioner Yusupov?
Aye.
Vice Chair Barry?
Aye.
And Chair Volin.
Aye.
And the item is approved.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the minutes from last month. The approval of the prior meeting on Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. Are there any changes to the minutes of November 12th, 2025?
There are no changes.
Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
Motion.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Christian and seconded by Commissioner Eisenberg. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Cockrum?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
Aye.
Commissioner LeBron Boyd? Commissioner Yusupov?
Aye.
Vice Chair Barry?
Aye.
And Chair Volin.
Aye.
And the minutes are approved.
Thank you. Item number 6, public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the West Hollywood Business License Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter and jurisdiction of our commission. This is not the public comment period for any public hearings on the agenda. Public comments for public hearings will occur at that time of the hearing. There will also be a general public comment later in the meeting for those who cannot be heard at this time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. To participate in the Business License Commission meeting as a speaker telephonically, you will have to have registered by 2 p.m. today. If you did not register with the city staff, you will be unable to join the meeting as a speaker telephonically. Those who are present in person may register anytime before public comment period closes. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, we do.
Great.
First up, we have Commissioner Ng.
Good evening. Oh, hi. Hey, everyone. I am Catherine Ng. I'm a resident of the city of West Hollywood, and I come here tonight as a liaison from the Public Safety Commission. So I'm here officially to I
thought I was going to speak on the minutes.
Okay. All right. Yes. Anyhow, I come here officially as the liaison from the Public Safety Commission. And actually, for me, it's really very full circle because my activism in the city started regarding cannabis and public safety. So, and also, when it came up for liaisons, it was very funny because several other commissioners on my commission said that they wanted BLC, and I said, I'm taking it. So I'm here finally to say good evening, to be with you. I hope to make comment on the item if I have time. I do have to leave chamber in about 20 minutes, so hopefully I can do both, but I will try to speak on the item as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
Give me a second. And I'm going to call Mr. Victor Omachenko. Sir? Stop.
Victor Omolchenko, longtime West Hollywood resident, and sorry for the little kerfuffle, Ms. King. I did put in a slip to talk about your draft minutes, and we can talk about those items, and so that was under 5, so I wanted to apologize for going up to you and asking you why, Ms. King, you didn't call my name out. The minutes go by fast, and what I want to say is that I appreciate the congratulatory comments reflected in the items from commissioners as well as the questions raised by Commissioner LeBron, Boyd, and Eisenberg regarding why the item on removal of cannabis business neighborhood security guards was tabled. I am not appreciative, nor do I think government transparency is fostered by the draft minutes simply saying Director Rivas responded to why the item was tabled. If staff can devote so much space in the draft minutes to documenting the back and forth congratulatory items, then I think they should also prepare a paragraph or two about why the Business License Commission did not address the issue at its November 12 meeting. Or perhaps the minutes for the future. Let's look towards the future improvement of government processes. Maybe the minutes in the draft that you approve could direct the public in this way. For further details, go to minute mark 28.43 at this and that website, and then you can watch the video. Because I know the staff has a lot of stuff to put into the minutes, but a lot of times I feel there's a lot of the congratulatory and this and that and that. And then when there's an item of why you tabled this issue, it's just this director or that director responded. And then when people ask, then they're told afterwards, go to the video. Maybe there should be a policy implemented where in the minutes you say that for further information, you don't have to say everything like repeat what the director at any kind of commission said, but you just refer the people to the video, either at WehoTV or on YouTube. That way, I feel that government transparency and public input will be enhanced so that things don't look like they're being done in a star chamber behind the scenes. Thank you for bearing with me.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers at this time?
Right now, I'm looking into our deputy city attorney. I have a question. So Mr. Omachenko wanted to speak with item number 5 under the minutes and also under public comment.
He wants to speak both under item 5 and on public comment?
Correct.
Public comment is agenda number 6.
And also he wanted to speak under number 5 under the minutes.
He's welcome to speak on both. He's welcome to speak on both.
So then we'll grant him another 3 minutes to speak regarding public item number 6.
Well, he has one opportunity to speak on general matters affecting public business, and then he can have another 3 minutes on specific agenda items. So if he wants to take another 3 minutes on the minutes, that's fine.
Mr. Omachenko, if you want to have your 3 minutes.
Before my time starts, because I did.
So this is just general public comment. You spoke on the agenda, right? So now this is general public comment?
It's under minutes.
General public comment for 2 minutes, and I think public comment, I'm sorry.
You have 2 items, one for minutes, item number 5, which you were inquiring about.
2 points, yes.
And then the other item was regarding public comment under item number 6.
Okay. 2 minutes. Victor Omolchenko again, West Hollywood resident. My public comments regard procedures and agenda posting. And this, what I I just wanted to share with you a vignette. I returned home, I was last Friday, November 28th. I was walking home from the deli. I had just purchased my food, and I walked by the cannabis dispensary at it's called AHHS on Santa Monica Boulevard at 7826. And I noticed a posting for the December 2 hearing that you're having now, and there was a bud broker outside. He called himself a bud broker, and he said he was an employee. And he told me this meeting was coming up, and that sparked my interest. And I went home to the website, to the city's website, weho.org, on Friday evening, November 28th. I clicked on the link at the calendar and at other sites, and I was directed to your meeting. But what I came upon was your November 12th agenda. What's going on? So I know it was the weekend came, and so on Monday, I followed up and I looked up on the agenda, and that afternoon I did finally find the online ink. But it was only when I watched the November 12th video of your meeting did I learn that the requirements for public hearing noticing were the reason for why your memorializing item was tabled until December 2. I've since submitted the other 2 memos, and what I want to say is I feel that a failure in posting in a timely fashion, your December 2 agenda. Some of my neighbors and I wanted to know why this delay occurred and what is the accepted procedure process in place for posting online agendas and when. I'd be curious when you receive the agenda. You know, process is important if public input is truly wanted, and therefore, I just hope that, you know, the process is improved, and I do thank you for your work on business licensing to support the West Hollywood's economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
None.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 7, unfinished business, which there's none. Item number 8, new business, there is none. And item number 9, public hearing. So, we do have a public hearing. Resolution memorializing pursuant to Ordinance 25-23, removal of the neighborhood security guard patrol requirement from conditions of approval of all existing West Hollywood cannabis licenses. I will now open the public hearing. Secretary, how was this item noticed?
All notices were posted as required by law.
Do any commissioners have any disclosures that they'd like to make of any site visits or conversations, evidence received before the meeting that may affect their decision in this matter? Okay. Is there a staff report?
There is a staff report. So good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Business License Commission. I'm Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety for the City of West Hollywood. Joining on this item is Jessica Benitez, Code Enforcement Supervisor, and then we have Scott Shapes, who's our Deputy City Attorney here to provide any sort of legal guidance and to answer any questions as well. So as mentioned, Chair, this item is to memorialize a municipal code requirement that went before the City Council in October of this year, which essentially removed the neighborhood security patrol requirement. I do want to emphasize that does not remove the entire security guard requirement or the security plan that each and every single cannabis business is required to adhere to as a part of their approval process. And so that includes, having, a physical on-site security guard. Typically you have these individuals that are posted at the front entrance of the business, and as well as inside at times, depending on how large the establishment is, right? And other security measures, cameras, et cetera, that go into their security plan. But it does affect and impact the additional security guard requirement, which essentially required businesses to have to patrol in the adjacent neighborhood residential areas within a 2-block radius. It kind of varied between licensees that went before the Business License Commission. Some of the conditions of approval required that they perform that on an hourly basis, where there are others that just simply kind of generalized that requirement. So again, that's what this item essentially is it's memorializing
and being consistent and in compliance with the West Hollywood Municipal Code amendment that went before the City Council at their direction, and the City Attorney's Office did help prepare that ordinance. We also worked with our Economic Development Department as a part of that as well, in hearing from the cannabis businesses themselves. And so there were a number of opportunities for members of the public to be able to provide input and feedback as that process unfolded, but ultimately it did get approved, it did get adopted. It is in effect now. And so this is now to rescind and make an amendment to each of the 14 business locations, 12 of which are currently in operation. We do have 2 business locations that came before the Business License Commission that are not up and running yet. They are not open, but however, they did come before the Business License Commission, and so making sure that each of those conditions, right, is amended to reflect what has been updated as a part of our West Hollywood Municipal Code amendment. So that is the item in short. As part of the staff report, in the last paragraph, it does provide, and I do want to emphasize this as well, that you know, there's still, the Business License Commission still retains the authority to be able to reimpose such roaming neighborhood security guard requirements on a case-by-case basis when the presence of unique public health and safety factors makes such reimposition necessary. So essentially, if there is findings which in every hearing, whether this hearing or hearings that have gone before the Business License Commission, there have to be findings, right? There has to be supporting data, information that's a part of the recommendations that are being set and brought forth before the commission, or if there's conditions that need to be added, you know, there has to be, again, some sort of supporting documentation that demonstrates that there is a potential issue that's occurring, right, to be able to establish that. And that is something that, of course, would be brought back before the commission. And so as a part of our cannabis licensing program, we do have code enforcement staff that are responsible for performing annual checks or responding to calls for service from the community as it relates to businesses. And so if there are trends, if there are issues and things that come about, then that provides that opportunity for our code enforcement staff to kind of deal with that issue initially with the business, and hopefully gaining compliance, correcting the situation, and then if not, if the situation progresses, then that's an avenue for code enforcement staff to then bring forth an item before the Business License Commission for consideration in terms of re-implementing this type of requirement, or maybe there's some other condition or issue, right, that staff would be recommending at that time. So that concludes staff's report and presentation, and of course we're happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions? All right, please go ahead. Commissioner LeBron-Boyd.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. So could you maybe elaborate a little bit on the timeline of how this all went down? So I think it was brought up in July. And who specifically brought it up? Was it brought up by the council, or did staff bring it up?
So that it actually came about through West Hollywood Emerald Village, which is right, an organization that represents the bulk of all the cannabis businesses that operate in West Hollywood. And so as a part of their agreement with the city for marketing purposes, they did bring forth to the city staff, so that was sent to the city manager's office. Initially, I know that potentially I'd have to recall or kind of look back at our records, but it may have also been sent to the city council at the same time, but it was a letter essentially with requests, and one of those requests was specific to the neighborhood security patrol requirement. And so that organization, on behalf of the cannabis businesses, made that request actually in March. So prior to July, and then that went before City Council in July as a part of an amendment to their existing agreement with the city for marketing purposes that our economic development department led. And that staff report and part of the discussion with City Council at that time was to review those requests in the letter that was sent earlier in the year. And at that time, City Council provided staff and the City Attorney's Office direction to make an amendment to the municipal code to remove that neighborhood security patrol requirement.
So when in that timeline would this have been suggested to go in front of either this commission or, for example, the Public Safety Commission in order to get the opinion of those bodies? I guess staff didn't seem to recommend that course of action, but were they supposed to? Is the council supposed to ask for that? Like, who directs that to happen?
Yeah, it all depends. Sometimes, most of the time, in most instances, it's a city council direction that's provided. So that would have been something that would have been done at that time in July in terms of directing staff to maybe go before different bodies for input and feedback prior to returning back to the city council. But that was not something that was provided as a part of the motion that the city council and the direction they provided at that time.
And it's not something that staff would have proactively recommended?
Correct. Typically, staff doesn't recommend that. Maybe in some instances they would. It depends, right? But in most instances, in most of my experience here, it has not. That's really something that's driven by the city council, you know, to maybe add even beyond the two bodies that you just mentioned in seeking input and feedback on a particular item.
Okay.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
I would just like to elaborate on what he said. It seems to me that the direction should have come from city staff, and because city staff just went to city council. But if somebody were to come and say, we need extended hours, you bring that before us. I don't see how this is that much different. Like when we were looking, I think it was a year or two ago at the gas station, who was asking for a waiver of a security guard. That came before us, not before the city council. So it seems to me that this was just like being rushed through. I can understand bringing it before city council. I'm sure Emerald Village was asking for an expedited request, but I think it should have still followed this normal city process. And I do think it should have come before us and before public safety with our recommendations before going to city council. We would have asked for things like a safety report. Were there any police incidents or any incidents in maybe the year or two prior with any of the cannabis lounges? I'm glad that we will have the opportunity, if some instances happen in the future, that we can ask for a specific cannabis store to reinstate a neighborhood security guard. I'm very glad that we have that authority. But I do think it was a misstep on staff's side not to have gone through the normal process of flowing up to city council rather than flowing down from city council, which is what happened, which is really takes away our authority. It undermines us, it undermines our input, and I'm frankly offended that it didn't come before us first. Thank you.
Sorry, can I ask some? I have one more question.
Did you want to respond, or?
Yes, please respond.
I don't know if that was a question, if that was more of a comment that I heard.
Comment, okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner LeBron Boyd?
I also have a few questions about the public notification process and period, and also as it sort of applied to when the council voted on it as well. So I know, for example, certain, like for example, the billboards on Sunset, like everyone in the radius gets the postcard. How is the public notified about like a hearing like this? Like I know from seeing them that there's those little yellow signs that go outside the establishment itself, but what beyond that happens to tell the public about either these rule changes or the public hearing? Because the public hearing would have also happened technically at the city council meeting when they voted on it, right? There's sort of like three questions embedded in that, I'm sorry. But.
Yeah, so you're asking like in terms of the, what type of noticing requirement occurred when it went to the city council?
Yes.
Or you're asking
for this and the city council.
Yeah, so for this one, I'll start with the current. So for this one, we did work through the city clerk's office, and it was published in the Beverly Press, which serves as a newspaper, and so that is a requirement, and so we fulfilled that requirement. That was posted on November 13th of this year. And then the agenda, of course, was posted as required on November 24th of this year. And then in addition to that, we proceeded with doing a mailer, a public hearing mailer notice. So every resident or business within a 500 radius of a individual cannabis business location would receive notification of that, and that was really going above and beyond. And so we did do that. We fulfilled that requirement as a part of this noticing requirement here for this item. In
For
terms
this
of,
item or for the public safety?
for
Or,
this
excuse me,
item.
for the city council meeting when they did it?
For this item before the Business License Commission. Now, in terms of what was done for a city council meeting, that item was a legislative item. And so the requirement was to post the agenda. I know our Economic Development Department did lead that amendment with our city attorney's office. So, and I didn't attend actually that meeting, but I would have to certainly look back into whether the city clerk's office posted that, published it through the Beverly Press as well. That I'm uncertain of, but I would have to look into that and let you know and follow up. But I don't know that right now.
It just seems like a peculiar use of taxpayer money to send postcards for this meeting, which is a technicality, and not for the original meeting when the residents would have actually, who have been impacted by this, had the opportunity to speak on it. That's all.
Isn't that what it looked like in our agenda?
Yeah, if you could speak into the mic, Commissioner, because I can't hear you. Go ahead.
It was a consent item. When you say a legislative item, you meant a consent. It was on the consent calendar?
Legislative items are not consent items. No, they're not. They are a separate item. So you have consent items like we have on our agenda. Here you have new business, unfinished business, you have public hearing, and you have legislative. So it would have fell under legislative.
Did anyone from the public come in to speak on it when it came before City Council?
As I mentioned, I did not attend that meeting. That occurred in October, so and then the initial meeting in July, so I would have to look back and to see whether or not, but I don't recall there being a large volume of folks that came out from what I recall.
Any? One person?
I don't know the number, yeah.
Not a large volume. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Christian, question?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Chairwoman. So you mentioned that sending out the postcards to nearby.
I don't know if the mic, at least I can't.
I've got a green light.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep, there you go.
So you mentioned that the postcards being sent out to nearby residences were above and beyond. So is that not a requirement for noticing? That's just something staff took upon themselves?
Yeah, so the requirement that we fulfilled through the Beverly Press more or less kind of sufficed, given the fact that this item had already gone before the City Council and been approved.
See, that's my concern. What exactly was the noticing requirement that you satisfied?
The
Does that make
Beverly
sense?
Press.
So there was no geographical noticing requirement for this particular item?
We did that, though.
But you said it was above and beyond. So that's what I'm saying. There wasn't actually a requirement in the municipal code or otherwise to notify geographically proximate homes. I see the city attorney.
Yeah, so the difference with this item is, so generally when we're bringing forth, any sort of variance request or an amendment, maybe a modification to a license, or maybe it's a new license, right? The standard practice is to do the 500-foot radius, right? But in this instance, you didn't have a business individually applying as the applicant because we were having to comply, right, with the West Hollywood Municipal Code because of the decision that had been made on making that amendment. We decided in consultation with the city attorney's office that it would be best for us to kind of follow in line with that standard practice, although this is a unique circumstance and isn't something. So did mention, yes, going above and beyond, because that's my interpretation, that I really feel that, that the noticing requirement for the Beverly Press and the posting of the agenda does provide that notification, but we wanted to extend it and be consistent, right, with if it were as an applicant that was coming to the city, folks would be aware of that. And as I mentioned, you had 2 out of the 14 locations that are not even in operation right now. And so, they're not open for business, but again, given the fact that they came before the body business license commission, that condition of approval is on their license conditionally at this time, we felt it was necessary to just include them as a part of that noticing.
Yeah, so let me confirm. I don't want to suggest that staff did not go above and beyond, because I know that city staff often does. That's your habit, to go above and beyond with everything you do. So it's not meant as a criticism by any means. My concern, because I share Commissioner Eisenberg's and Commissioner LeBron Boyd's concern, is that the folks that were most directly impacted by this change were not given the best possible notice and the best possible opportunity to come before the commission. And we've had commenters that have suggested that as well. So I just wanted to clarify that, was there some sort of noticing requirement that would have gone out to nearby residents that was leapfrogged by the fact that this went straight to council rather than coming to the commissioner first? Or is it just that staff would have exercised their discretion to send out these postcards, but maybe didn't because it was in front of council to begin with?
Director Rivas, may I interject here?
Sure. Yeah.
So it went under a different noticing track.
Great.
It went under the noticing track for ordinances.
Yep.
So instead of it going for noticing as it would individual approvals of licenses, the way it did with each of these cannabis business licenses, where conditions were individually added to those specific licenses. This went through the ordinance approval process, which involves publishing a summary 15 days in advance, a subsequent summary afterwards. So slightly different noticing process, but noticing all the same.
So I appreciate that notices went out for both, and I guess my question is, because right now we're drawing a distinction between the ordinance noticing, which has no geographical specificity, so where would you send out cards, right, as opposed to the commission decisions about individual business licenses. I guess what I'm wondering is, if this general policy proposal had come before this commission for the public to weigh in before it went to City Council, would there have been any kind of geographical noticing that did not take place because of the procedural way that this took place?
I can respond. So this is the distinction between it coming as an ordinance and it coming to you now. Theoretically, you could decide there's a need to maintain this roaming security guard requirement. You would need to have facts to support that, right? You would need to have substantial evidence. There would need to be, some support for that. And that's why the noticing happened for this meeting, because if there were people near the businesses who did feel that it was necessary to come out for this meeting, which we can see, turnout, I see 3 people in the audience, they could have come out, spoken to you all now, and told you why they believe that the roaming security guard requirement needs to remain in place.
So let me, and I may be exposing some inexperience, and then I'll just let my fellow commissioners, weigh in, because I know that I'm kind of harping on this. Right now, we're making a distinction between an ordinance, which is a general, it's a change to the code that applies to the entire city, so there isn't a lot of specificity, and the Business License Commission's individual decisions regarding specific licenses. What's in between? In what posture would this proposal, as a general matter that applies to the whole city, have come before this commission first? Would it ever? What are my fellow commissioners, Eisenberg and LeBron Boyd, imagining when they think of this proposal coming before us before it goes to council? And if that had happened, who would have been noticed? Would the people near these businesses have been noticed in the same way that they would if it were a proposal regarding an individual license?
No, if it had come to you as just to make a recommendation to council, there wouldn't have been notice to the individual property owners surrounding those businesses.
Thank you. I'm sorry it took me so long to ask that question clearly, and I'll relinquish the floor.
No, thank you. These questions are important. That's our job, so I appreciate that. Vice Chair Barry, did you have a question?
Yeah. While I feel it's an important discussion, I do want to get back to the resolution itself. I have a few questions regarding the specifics of it, and that is, the staff report notes that the commission retains the authority to reimpose a roaming security requirement on a case-by-case basis, as you mentioned, Director Rivas. You mentioned about the supporting data and documentations and conditions, and I think the staff report discusses the presence of unique public health and safety factors. Can you discuss what specific factors or thresholds would trigger that requirement, so that we know as a commission what a clear and predictable standard would be for that?
Sure, absolutely. So we'll use an example of, let's say that there are patrons of a particular cannabis business that are tending to loiter near the business. Maybe they begin to start consuming the cannabis right within that area, or maybe are drinking alcohol right associated with that, or playing loud music. So now they're creating other types of nuisance related factors that are directly tied to the business. And we're able to confirm that type of activity. And so by confirming it, meaning that, you know, whether it's a code enforcement officer or sheriff deputy that's going out and responding to that, that they are, you know, saying, yes, you know, I made contact with an individual and we observed A, B, and C, right? And so those are instances where if our code enforcement staff is unable to gain compliance from the cannabis business, in terms of bringing those issues to their attention, and saying, hey, listen, you know, we need you to be more proactive. We need you maybe to take a more active role in terms of ensuring that your patrons are taking steps, right, are not doing the things that I used as an example, and they're failing to comply with the orders that the code enforcement staff are providing, then staff would be bringing forth that license to the commission. Okay. So it would be driven by staff. It wouldn't be something that the Business License Commission would be initiating. But once it would come before you all, then you would have the ability to review all of that data, right? The calls for service, the contacts, the orders, the ability for that business to comply voluntarily without taking, you know, additional steps to kind of gain compliance or address the issue at hand.
Great. So that goes to my next question. The staff would be monitoring the neighborhood impacts and reporting back on an as-needed basis.
Correct. But generally, as I mentioned, I mean, right now for all of our businesses, whether it's cannabis related or any other business, code enforcement staff are, you know, responding to calls, and right. If we're seeing trends, I mean, that's something that is assessed and monitored internally. We're seeing problematic issues that are reoccurring, and you know, if something is escalating in terms of like a warning notice is issued, that business didn't comply, now a citation is issued. We have a series of 3 different types of citation levels and fine amounts that are applied, and so if we're still unable to kind of gain compliance and these things continue to occur, then that's when we would bring an item, package all of that information and data together, and bring it before the commission for consideration.
Sure. And this is more a clarity item, just so I understand. I noticed in the staff report it said there's no fiscal impact. Can you speak to the estimated cost burden that the roaming security guard requirement created for the campus operators, and how removing it is expected to affect their ability to stabilize and grow?
So the number I'm going to throw out there, it's going to be a range, and don't quote me on it, but you know, it's something that we've heard from businesses, and I can attest to kind of that range being consistent with what we see during vacant property code enforcement cases when we do require security on site for trespassing related issues. It can range from anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000.
Got it. Yeah, over what time
A
period?
month.
A month.
Yes.
Okay, great. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioners have questions? Commissioner Yusupov?
Yeah, I want to echo previous commissioners that the process is a little bit, seems like out of order. The Business License Commission is the one who would grant these licenses with the conditions, and we would be, I guess, the first stop to review removal of such requirement. If an association applied to the city manager, it would seem logical that it would come first to the commission. One factor could have been maybe to cut so-called red tape, but on the other hand, the commission itself, the council itself has so many items on its plate, and that's why the commission exists, to review these items first and to make it actually easier for the council to whether adopt or not. Now my question is, now that we have this item that's memorializing this ordinance, what happens if we don't memorialize? It's not like this ordinance is going to be canceled or anything, right? So let's say, like the city attorney said, we have the facts and data that supports not agreeing with this. This is just hypothetical. So in that case, the ordinance doesn't stop from being active. Like, this is just going to be a symbolic gesture, isn't it?
I would say that it's not symbolic, because what you're doing here is you're amending specific licenses. So instead of a broad change to municipal law generally, which is what council did, what you're doing is you're changing individual licenses to remove that roaming security guard requirement from each one that's in existence now. And then, looking prospectively, should there be issues with either of those businesses, then you do have the ability, if there is a report made by the director where we see impacts to the community without the roaming security guard, this commission could potentially or would consider reinstating that as a condition of those individual licensees.
Regardless of ordinance, so it would be like case by case.
That's correct.
And if this item would come, before the ordinance was adopted, would come in front of the commission, we would probably look at the facts, like, are there incidents, are there reports of crimes, and all that data before recommending council to adopt the ordinance, which I'm assuming they only have the power to do it. So we can't blanketly allow all the cannabises not to have the security guard, correct? So was that type of report provided to the city council on the police reports or like incident reports before they adopted the ordinance?
It was not.
It was not. So nobody
nobody
really looked at that data. Or
that staff report, I don't know how far back or the data that was included in it, but my understanding is it didn't dive into that level of detail. And just to clarify, if the item would have been brought before the Business License Commission for input and feedback, that would be for the commission to provide their recommendations, as it relates to the municipal code amendment, and then it would have proceeded to the city council as the decision-making body on policies, right, to consider those, right, and then they would make a decision. So that was not, again, part of the direction that staff received. And I know there was a comment earlier too made regarding, staff should have brought that for city council consideration, but what staff was doing at that time in July was really bringing forth the letter of the various requests that the cannabis businesses were making to the city. And so bringing that to the attention of council, they ultimately discussed, right, those items and then made the decision and gave direction to staff at that time, as well as the city attorney's office, to make the municipal code change. So nothing in there at that time was included to bring it, before this body or any other body. So we hear the input, the feedback, from each of the commissioners, and we value that. But we are where we're at right now in this process. And so, we always send a synopsis of information to the city council as well, following commission meetings. And so we will be sure to include that input and feedback from this body to the city council.
Commissioner Christian?
Yeah, I do want to clarify. Thank you, Director Rivas. I do want to clarify with the city attorney, because I didn't quite catch the answer to Commissioner Yusupov's question. What happens if the commission votes no? Because tonight on this item. Now, I understand what you say when you say that we're simply we are making change to the individual licenses, whereas the municipal code has been changed. So, and I'm not suggesting that I'm voting one way or the other. I'm just curious about this hypothetical. Is the commission neglecting its obligation to comply with the municipal code by saying we're going to refuse to amend these licenses even though the municipal code says that these particular terms are essentially illegal now?
Well, without giving specific legal advice on the record on that exact point of how it plays out, if the commission were to choose that action, I think what I'd point to is if the commission were going to take that action, it would need to do so based on substantial evidence in the record. And that would really guide the commission's decision. So I think the fact that council looked at this item, had staff reports come to it with evidence that the roaming security guard requirement could be removed. I was not present at the meeting, but I am fairly certain, and this is from my memory of the staff reports, I believe that there were, I believe that the Sheriff's Department was consulted. So there was evidence that the council considered in adopting its ordinance. And here, your question is, what would happen? It's hard to say, but what your decision is based on here is there evidence in the record to disagree with what council did, right?
Right. So essentially, it would be setting up, don't go into legal advice, it would be setting up a circumstance where any individual licensee could bring essentially a challenge to this limitation that still existed in their license, and part of what we would be considered during what would essentially be litigation would be whether or not we had substantial evidence in front of us now to reject the decision that council made already. Is that an appropriate way to describe it?
This item was brought, right, by these cannabis businesses in this association because they felt it was important to remove the roaming security guard requirement. So
when you say this item, you mean the item that went to council, right?
That went to council and now is before you. So you might imagine that those businesses that are part of the association would have a negative response to that.
Yeah.
I can't speak to that response.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Eisenberg?
Elaborating more on what my fellow commissioners just brought up, and again, it's a hypothetical about if we were to deny it, couldn't we say the evidence doesn't show that a substantial police safety report was presented to the council? We haven't seen it. You're not sure if it was presented to the council. Wouldn't that be substantial grounds to at least suspend or postpone our vote until we can get that information?
Well, evidence was presented to council. There's no
in our packet.
Well, potentially, yes. But I think what we have to determine is whether, it's ultimately up to this commission to decide and discuss if you believe that, and your choice.
It seems to me procedurally, and I don't know if this would be reserved for comments, this is really more of a CYA procedure for us. Not to be crass about it.
Yeah, I think you can sense there's some frustration where a lot of the commissioners feel we're in a position that we just don't have any control or full understanding of what we're voting for. So in a time when like so many people are on edge about public safety, we want to make sure we're doing every single thing we can as a commission to protect our residences and our businesses and make sure that that's happening. So I think that's kind of where a lot of this tension is coming from, and I think a lot of that could be resolved in the future if the staff bring stuff to the Business License Commission first, at least for an opinion, and then to City Council, because now we're in a position where, like we said, what if we voted no, or we had some evidence, or some of us thought there was evidence, and we voted no against this, then what happens? The city's in a weird position, we're in a weird position, it doesn't make sense. So I haven't heard any clear answer of if we were to vote no, what happens next, because I don't think anyone thought that that could even be a possibility. But it could be, anything is possible, right? We don't know who could have come. We haven't heard public comment yet on this item. We don't know what's to come. So that's why we're asking some of these questions first. But I think we should get to the hearing unless there's any other questions. We can ask the staff after public comment as well when we do our deliberations if anything else comes up. Anything else pressing for the moment before we allow anyone in the public to speak?
I can speak after public comments, but I just wanted to, the city attorney mentioned that there's a process where we can then individually impose those requirements to individual cannabis businesses later on if that seems necessary. So what that process would look like? Let's say we memorialize this and this ordinance is in effect, and then later there's an evidence that one of the businesses may be struggling with the security or inadequate security. So what would be the process of making that particular business to have an additional security?
So, Director Rivas, I'll respond, but it would involve, potentially code enforcement complaints against the business, and then the department responding to those complaints, and then potentially drawing up a report to discuss the fact that those were not adequately addressed by the business and may need to be addressed by a condition added to the license.
And then the city staff would bring it before the commission to change that, or they could just make the business have the extra security just because the city deems like they violated certain number of incidents, or
it would have to be brought before the commission for a decision.
so it's again would be initiated by the staff based on the
That's correct.
reports. Okay, thanks.
And Commissioner Usman and full body, and so although I don't have the data right in front of me, I can tell you that since the cannabis businesses have been in operation, which has been since 2019, which was actually the year that I started, until now. And I'm, of course, with code enforcement staff, very in tune with the issues that we have that go out from a public safety law enforcement perspective, as well as from a code enforcement perspective. We have not had any significant or concerning issues with any of our cannabis businesses since those that have been in operation since 2019. And if we had issues that code enforcement staff, as I mentioned, would come across, then we certainly would be moving through our administrative enforcement process, which is a process that we emerge with businesses that are, failing to comply with certain requirements. So that doesn't just extend to cannabis businesses. This extends to every business especially those that are one of the 34 that are regulated under our municipal code. So if we do have issues, we always give a business an opportunity to correct those issues. We educate that business. And then if they're failing to take the proper steps, right, then we can issue notices of violation, citations, et cetera. And if that doesn't work and they are one of the 34 licensed businesses, then that business can be brought before the Business License Commission. And we have brought businesses before in the past, before the Business License Commission for consideration for revocation or suspension in my time here at the city. But again, I can tell you that we have not had any concerning complaints or reports or issues with any of our cannabis businesses as it relates to the neighborhood security patrol requirement. I also want to just bring to light that the city does have a security ambassador program, which are essentially security guards. And although they do not, extend to being responsible for private businesses and their security requirements, but part of their scope of services does include patrolling in residential neighborhoods. Yes, they do focus on our commercial thoroughfares mostly, but they also do extend into the residential neighborhoods as well, respond to different calls for service. So if somebody is potentially looking to be suspicious or loitering, et cetera, right, you have security ambassadors that get called. They go out as that initial frontline ambassador, and then if they need to contact sheriff's deputies, right, for further support. So I just wanted to also just kind of bring that to the commission's attention as well.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter?
We have 3 speakers. First is Catherine Eng. I'm calling her because I saw her. Catherine Eng. Since she's not here, then I am going to call Victor Olmancheco. Please, the slippers are outside. Mr. Victor Olmanchenko, please come to the podium. Mr. Victor Olmanchenko, you have 3 minutes.
Victor Olmanchenko, longtime West Hollywood resident, and I was a public facilities commissioner. I was a federal government employee for 35 years in 4 different departments, and I know I may be talking a lot about process and procedure, but I do think that process is paramount, and it's very important, and I really like hearing your full-throated discussion and your questioning. I think this is an issue that shows, it talks to what are commissions for. You're not just rubber stamp memorializing commissions. You're here to be proactive. And can I have my time stopped, please?
Please continue.
Okay. All right, so where was I?
You're doing great, keep it up.
Okay, so I'm happy to see that you're discussing these things. For the record, I'm getting a little confused. Director Rivas mentioned that at the July 7th council meeting, there wasn't that much evidence. Correct me if I'm wrong, Danny. And then the attorney tells us that if you wanted to vote against this at this point because you wanted more data, you'd have to do it on the basis of evidence. So all of this is rather murky, but let me read to you from the record of the July 7th City Council meeting on this item. And the major thing is, there in that item that was prepared by Economic Development staffers Beery, Kaspradet, and D'Ambrosia, Safety Director Rivas, and City Attorney Lauren Langer, staff recommends the City Council retain the security guard requirement for cannabis businesses. So what happened? Staff must have had evidence. Lauren Langer must have had evidence. The Economic Development Department must have had evidence. So I'm just questioning this whole process, and I don't know whether this memorializing is ready for prime time. And you also have so many other issues to look at, not just cannabis and that. I looked at your purview. There are 34 businesses that are regulated in this city. You have to regulate and look at 33 of them, not the taxi companies, adult bookstores, animal grooming, extended business hours, fortune telling, health clubs, home sharing, locksmiths, cannabis uses, massage establishments, model studios, pawnbrokers, tanning salons, tow trucks, valet parking, sidewalk vendors like the hot dog vendors that obscured the La Boheme restaurant as I went towards the Rainbow District for the very fine Halloween, and I was just wondering where was code enforcement. You should have seen what was happening, and that's why I think there are other issues than cannabis, and I really appreciate that Councilmember Danny Hang did bring up the issue of sidewalk vendors and the hot dogs. So maybe you can start looking at some of those other issues. There are a lot of other businesses in the city. Thank you so much.
Now I'm going to call Ms. Aline Hoppenhang Garner. You have 3 minutes, followed by Richard Eastman.
Good evening, Commissioners. Lynn Huppengarner, citizen of West Hollywood, and I'm here as a citizen, not as a planning commissioner. Point of information, I live within 500 feet. I did receive the notice for this meeting, that's why I'm here. Had I received a notice for the October meeting or well, I did speak at the July meeting. I did not receive a council notice in October when this was voted on as an item. Procedurally, you're right, this is pretty much a mess. I didn't come here to speak on the procedural issue, but the fact of the matter is, these should have evidence on each business in order for you to rescind the statute for that business. To do a blanket rescission is without evidence. Lack of evidence is not evidence. Just failure to present evidence is not evidence. But I'm here to speak about the fact that it's unfortunate that this requirement is being removed largely due to non-compliance. The fact that these businesses haven't done the security patrols doesn't mean that there isn't a need. I live near the artistry, and in all the years they've been in the business, I have never seen a security patrol, and I live within a block. Nor have any of my neighbors that I've ever talked to about it. Particularly concerning is that the code has a lack of clarity about the purpose of the patrols. I and my neighbors believed that this was to secure the neighborhood. That was why we would have neighborhood security patrols. But when I spoke to the owner of the artistry, they believed that the purpose was to secure their business and to keep an eye out for anyone who was scoping out their business. And that they had no intention of securing the neighborhood. I'm concerned that this item doesn't propose any replacement for the patrols. For example, through our new security ambassadors. Again, I have never seen a security ambassador or any of the BBB, whatever they were, ever in my neighborhood, ever. To say that they're patrolling, I've never seen them. But more importantly, I'm concerned about the lack of code enforcement about things like the doors to the business being left open. And I even made a proposal for you to consider about how to make life better in the neighborhoods, and that is enforcing state law. And that is something that the code enforcement people could do. They could have a card that says there is a state code that prohibits smoking in public, period. Not on the sidewalks, not in parks, anywhere. This is an opportunity to post something like this next to the doors of your businesses so that the public knows it's not allowed to smoke in the neighborhoods. This is a health issue. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Richard Eastman. 3 minutes.
Richard Eastman, 72, 82, 150. Donald Trump thinks he's 300. You know, I'm living with AIDS. Dennis Perone and I, and Harvey Milk, and Sean Penn won an Oscar. Why did they bring it up? Because it's 1965. He wasn't alive. Half of you weren't alive. And I was smoking weed on the streets of West Hollywood. When Scott Imler, who's dead, and Dennis Perone and I asked John Heilman, when I was supposed to be dead 31 years ago, 2 years in 1994, I'm here tonight just in time to say, people have died outside cannabis shops, inside cannabis shops. And if you don't have security, and like the woman said, oh, maybe we should keep the doors closed, or if you get rid of that security, I can't defend the right of Woody Harrelson and Bill Maher, my friends, that when I opened that place with them, not on the permit, not with the guy that doesn't enforce the hot dogs, because the guy that sells them paid $6,000. The city asked me for $10,000, and Scott Imler $10,000 when I was supposed to be dead 31 years ago. I barely got here in time to tell you that I fought for the freedom of speech, civil liberties, medical marijuana all across this country. And this is the eve of the 30th anniversary of medical marijuana, which, by the way, people are smoking all over the Emerald City. Richard Eastman, I'll smoke wherever I want. And the cops are like, they think I'm the FBI. Maybe he thinks I'm the FBI. If I got them high, I'm investigating you all. And I will not be done with this city until I'm dead. Hollywood forever, Paramount Pictures, the Hollywood sign. I'm living with 800 T cells, undetectable. Marijuana gets me hungry, helps me sleep, whether I'm on the street or in my bed. 40 years in the same apartment because Paramount got me in there. I don't own Paramount or Hollywood forever, and I don't own the streets of West Hollywood. But I can tell you one thing. I could demand an investigation by the Drug Enforcement Administration. I'm glad they went into the Abbey, fentanyl, cocaine, not saying they were doing that. This guy irritates the hot dog guy, and they look at me like I'm the FBI, all the immigrants. And they talk about declawing cats. Maxine Waters and I were sitting with Paul Koretz, former mayor, city councilman, and Michael Weinstein, who sells condoms and tests across the street where I smoke weed and give it away. God bless West Hollywood. If you make the wrong decision, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the rest of them, I'm going to the Justice Department. Maxine Waters will get me in there, and I'm demanding an investigation of the state of California and all the 40 marijuana states, and by help me God, we will have a new president. And if I lived in West Hollywood, I wouldn't have to go through this nightmare. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers?
No, we don't.
Okay. I will now close the public comment portion of this hearing and bring the matter back to the commission for discussion and deliberation. So this is our opportunity to ask any extra questions to the staff if you have anything, or amongst ourselves, and decide how we're going to vote. You can make a motion at any time, and after the motion, we'll still have opportunity for discussion. So if anyone would like to start, just let me know. Commissioner Yusupov.
I think that given what we're dealing with, I'm thinking that obviously the process was a little convoluted, but maybe in order to be efficient, maybe if there is that process of reviewing that data, I want to ask the city attorney once again. For example, let's say we adopt this resolution and memorialize this ordinance. Can we then also at the same time request that for all of the cannabis businesses that are going to be affected by this change, if we can get in the following meetings a report on how they're doing security-wise? And I'm sure, like Danny Rivas said, that there wasn't any issues that would be notable, and maybe it's quite likely it is like that. So, but I think for the public also to know that that data being shared with the public through the commission would be very helpful to feel better about this change that we are memorializing today. So if the commission wants to see those reports, and depending on the volume, it doesn't have to be in one meeting, what would be the process to request those staff reports on security incidents for those businesses?
I think the process would just be, if the commission wants to pass a resolution and separately request that the director return with some additional data, just discussing security incidents at those businesses that was presented to council, or additional data, that would be possible as a separate motion.
And that would, obviously that would not be tied particularly to this item that we're discussing, but that would be, that data could potentially allow the commission to advocate for maybe particular business to actually adopt a different number of security staff. Like if we find that one or two businesses standing out with a number of incidents, and like you said, there's a data supporting to advocate for that, then what would be the power of commission to request that that particular business is being conditioned now with the additional security patrols?
It would ultimately come as a discussion item, so you all would discuss it amongst yourselves and decide if you believe that there's a need to impose an additional condition on that business. That business would have the opportunity to come before the commission, discuss why an additional condition shouldn't be applied to it. So there would be a whole process involving that applicant. And unfortunately, none of the cannabis businesses are here tonight. But in that meeting, they would have the opportunity to come before you and discuss their businesses more individually.
And then if the commission doesn't agree with that business and feels like that requirement has to stand and they have to have additional security patrol, then that would be in effect for that particular business, correct?
That's correct. It would go through that process for you to impose an additional condition if necessary.
Okay, and then in that case, they wouldn't be able to cite the ordinance saying, no, we don't have to have it because the city council adopted this ordinance.
That's correct, because the ordinance also makes that caveat and that point that the Business License Commission is able to impose additional conditions, including a roaming security guard requirement, if necessary to public health and safety.
Okay, cool. I think that's a great compromise, or the great option that we have as a commission. Thank you.
We're able to request reports from staff as well. So it could be something where we say every 6 months, are there any major incidents that have happened to any of the cannabis businesses, just to keep us abreast. So Commissioner Eisenberg.
Wouldn't it just be cleaner for us to postpone voting on this tonight until we get this information, perhaps at the next meeting, and perhaps ask Scott Schmidt to come and make the same presentation to us that he made to the City Council, justifying this request? I personally would like to see the police reports. I'm concerned that Victor brought up at the July 17th meeting the staff recommended to retain the security, or would you want to clarify that and just say the one security guard is what your intention was, rather than, I think it's confusing. I mean, did the staff actually recommend retaining security? And I would also second what Lynn was saying. The security ambassadors may be patrolling in Plummer Park neighborhoods, but they are not in Lynn's neighborhood, and they have never been in West Hollywood Heights, which I brought up many times. They've never even been in existence along Sunset, as far as I can see. It really seems to be a Santa Monica project, Santa Monica Boulevard project. So I would feel more comfortable voting on this after we get this information, which, I'm not saying to vote against it. I'm just saying, let's give us the opportunity to see the full staff report that was presented to the City Council. And I would request that Scott Schmidt come and make his presentation to us too, so we can clearly understand why they're making this request. I do think I have heard that they have never actually patrolled the neighborhoods in the first place, or to any great degree. I know that when we've had some cannabis licenses before us, it was very vague about how often they patrolled the neighborhood and what that situation was. I personally would like to, maybe the sheriff, who has often been here when we've had some other cannabis licenses, just to support. There have been no incidences in the neighborhood that we need to be concerned about. I just think it should be a full presentation like we normally get with a cannabis license, especially if we're making a general vote that affects individual licensees. I think if we could just push it back one more meeting and have a full report for the next one. Is that possible?
And Elise, who is Scott Schmidt for?
Scott Schmidt runs Emerald Village.
Okay.
He's like their PR guy. Yeah, maybe can you address, is it possible to move it to the next meeting or not? What would that entail?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we did the noticing for this specific meeting, which gave the community ample opportunity to come to provide their public comment. I know there have been instances in terms of continuation of public hearings to dates certain and dates not certain, which, again, I think we would need to consult with our city clerk's office, our city attorney. I think there's a lot to kind of unpack there. So if that's a will of the majority of the commission, I would suggest taking a recess to kind of allow us to consult and be able to provide the commission with additional information. In terms of requiring the organization's representative to come and present, again, I know that was a request that was made to the city council that went before the city council on July 7th. They discussed that at that time, and a decision was made by the city council based on that discussion, which again was to direct staff and the city attorney's office to make an amendment to the municipal code. And then an item was brought back subsequent to that discussion in July, in October, for first reading. And then the item was brought back again for second reading on October 20th. So there were 3 opportunities in advance of this evening's meeting for folks to come out and provide their opportunity on concerns and issues that folks, may be experiencing. So I leave it to the commission to decide, but if that's the will of the majority of the commission, then I would suggest giving staff an opportunity to recess so that we can consult with the city clerk and the city attorney's office if that's something that is the will of the majority of the commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Barry?
So I understand the frustration of my fellow commissioners, but I also feel that we serve at the pleasure of the council, and it's our job to help move their agenda items forward. Procedurally, everyone knows that I'm very big on procedure, and I think procedurally, I feel this is something that we need to pass because of the way it came through as the city attorney spoke. As such, I would like to make a motion that we do memorialize this resolution due to the fact that what the city attorney said about the only reason we would not is if we had sufficient evidence against it, which we do not. So I'm just going to put out there to make a motion passing resolution memorialized and pursuant to ordinance 2528.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Barry. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A second, okay. Now we still have time for discussion before we vote. Is there any discussion on this motion of passing the resolution?
I would just say, unfortunately, I do agree. Like, the council has voted on this, and I don't think even if we make the staff go off, have people come back, like, the ordinance has been passed already, so our opportunity has, I think, been taken, but so it goes. I think, you know, you sent the postcards for this meeting, which is not the appropriate meeting for the public to express their opinions on this process. That was for the meeting when the city council voted on this item, but the city council did vote on this item, so we can't have this conflicting. It's just, unfortunately, I think, out of our hands.
I would just say the lack of evidence, the lack of presentation of evidence doesn't mean there's no evidence.
So, thank you. Commissioner Christian, and then we'll get to you, Commissioner Yusupov.
So I agree with Commissioner Berry and Commissioner LeBron Boyd. I don't know that we really have that much discretion to vote this down, and that's frustrating, right? I think we're sensing this, and I'm not levying that frustration at staff, just for the record. I think we're all in a situation when we're trying to figure out this strange procedural posture that we're in. I suppose my one question would be, Director Rivas, you mentioned it, I appreciate this, that our frustration with the way that this took place is going to be communicated to council in a staff report?
It's not a staff report, but it is an email, it's a synopsis of the commission meeting. And then in addition to that, I mean, I know for those commissioners that are appointed commissioners obviously have the opportunity to voice those same concerns to their city council members.
Great, because I think we have a dual obligation. We have an we serve at the pleasure of the council, but we also have an obligation to the public to not rubber stamp something without, you know, evidence, to not approve licenses on an omnibus basis or modifications to licenses on an omnibus basis, memorializing an item that came before council in a different posture, not really primarily, I think, as a business license issue. So although I agree with my commissioners, I'm just, you know, registering my displeasure shared with a number that's already been expressed by a number of folks.
Commissioner Yusupov, and then Vice Chair.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Christian, and actually that's what's happening. Basically, we are frustrated how it went down. At the same time, we don't have a power basically cancel it, to put it simply. And because of that, I think the most effective way to, I guess, fix this would be to adopt it and then look individually if there is data or new data to make these individual businesses carry additional security if needed. So far, we're being told that there is no evidence that support this, and I'm not personally hearing that, but I wouldn't be in the position to get those reports anyway. So I would say, with a separate motion to hear those reports in the future, that would be one of the ways of address that. And like Commissioner Christian mentioned, we do have obligation not only fulfill the council's wishes, but also be transparent with the public, so the public will know that we are looking at the data and making individual decisions based on that data. So I would be for supporting this item, and then looking forward to seeing those reports in the future meetings.
So I do want to respond to the reports, and so, you know, we have at times brought kind of high level receive and file reports to the commission. That has not been our standard practice for various reasons. Obviously, when we're bringing forth an item before the commission for revocation or suspension, we want to ensure, right, that there is no bias and that there is nothing that's been brought before that's going to sway the commission in a way for a specific issue, right, with a business. And so, as I've mentioned continuously throughout this item, and even in the past, as some of the commissioners that have been on the commission for quite some time that maybe have experienced some of those hearings and discussions, is that we have an administrative compliance process. So if a business per se has a complaint that's lodged against them, that doesn't necessarily mean that there is a violation, right? Staff will go out there, they'll investigate that. If they're able to confirm that there is in fact a violation, then there are steps in that administrative process that the city has in order to gain compliance or to correct that issue. And that is done at the staff level, right? So we only get to a point where we bring a very problematic business before the Business License Commission as really a last resort. So I don't want to set the expectation for the commission that staff is going to be bringing monthly or quarterly or semi-annual reports before the Business License Commission on cannabis businesses when we have several other businesses as well. That we just don't do that. We're able to gain compliance. Voluntary compliance is the forefront of the city of West Hollywood and other communities as well that have code enforcement programs. That is the goal. It's not the goal to be punitive. However, we do have tools in the toolbox to address problematic businesses and issues as they emerge. And this is a tool in that toolbox that provides us the ability to bring forth a business before the commission for revocation or modification. But it's far and few that happens, and I'm also concerned about the amount of work that it takes for staff to be compiling that, putting that together in the staff report. And I'm not saying that that's not important. It is, but with every code enforcement case or matter that we have, it's confidential information. We don't just disclose that information even to reporting parties. It's limited. We do keep them up to date as much as possible, but it's only when we're bringing forth a more heightened type of legal action, like a revocation or suspensions before the Business License Commission, or even separately that has nothing to do with the commission. If we're pursuing like a nuisance abatement case on a vacant property or something else, we bring that before the city council at that time. And now, similar to what we would bring before the Business License Commission, right, you're gonna see that timeline. You're gonna have copies of those notices, all of those contacts, right, that show that we gave somebody a reasonable opportunity to comply and they didn't, right? And that's the reason why we're here, to kind of take that more elevated type of action. So, so we can certainly look at, you know, what would be feasible in terms of bringing forth an update to the commission as a receive and file. You know, I think that makes sense given that this is something, you know, that we're doing that's unique, and looking at that in the future to kind of give an update to the commission at that time.
Any further discussion?
The only other thing I'd like to say, Commissioner Eisenberg, I also feel that the Emerald Village, it speaks volumes to me that they're not here to address the questions as well, because every other hearing we've had when it came to cannabis, they've been here. So to me, personally, I felt that they must have seen this as a procedural item too, which is why they didn't come. But given that we have had these many questions, it just, I wonder why they wouldn't have come. So that's all.
Okay, Commissioner Eisenberg?
I'll say I will support this item in a vote for the main reason that in the 5 years I've been on the commission, I don't recall any cannabis licensee having an issue with problems in the neighborhood. With all our discussion back and forth and asking for the police reports, I don't recall that we've had anything. Once Cookies, which is not within West Hollywood borders, left, that all of our cannabis licensees have been good citizens, good neighbors, good stewards of the industry. So for that reason, even though we don't have the evidence here in this report, which I would have liked to have seen documented, but just based on my historical participation with this commission, that we have not had any issues, even if the extra security guard does not actually patrol neighborhoods, I think it's probably okay, so I will support it.
Thank you. Yeah, I've also been on the commission for, I think, 6 years or so, and I don't recall anything major that has happened with any of our businesses or anything ongoing that wasn't resolved quickly. Yes, okay, Commissioner Christian.
I just wanted to thank you both for focusing on the substance of the item for a moment, because I similarly don't expect that on the objections are purely the procedural timeline that this went through and the fact that we don't feel that we have the opportunity for the public to come and make their case to us fully, but certainly on the substance of the item, I don't find it problematic.
Okay. I'm sensing we are ready to vote. Secretary, may I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Cochran?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Lambert-Boyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Yusupov,
Aye.
Vice Chair Barry,
Aye.
Chair Bullen,
Aye.
and the motion has passed.
Thank you.
I'd like to mention that since this item is approved, any action to challenge the final decision made as a result of the public hearing on this application must be filed within 15 days of the mailing date and pay the appropriate fees to the city clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 10, items from the staff. Do we have any items from the staff? Or neighborhood and business safety manager?
That's probably the one update that I was going to provide. So no news yet. We're still going through the recruitment process. I know a variety of commissioners have kind of asked, but so as soon as we have an update, we'll be able to share that. But we're still going through that process. I hope everybody had a great holiday and looking forward to the holiday coming and the new year. So happy New Year in advance.
Yes, thank you.
And I'd like to add as well, our office has received inquiries regarding your official parking permit. Our office will be sending an email later on regarding information from our parking division. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And item number 11, public comment. At this time, set aside for members of the public to address the West Hollywood Business License Commission on any item of interest within the subject matter of our jurisdiction of the commission that could not be heard under item number 6, our public hearing, at the beginning of the meeting. Each speaker, if there are any, will have 2 minutes. Do we have any speakers?
No, we don't.
All right, moving on to number 12, items from commissioners. Are there any commissioners who have any items to bring forth? Vice Chair Barry?
Yes, I just wanted to, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to highlight some of the numbers from the economic study that West Hollywood recently reported, because we often talk about some of the vacancy rates in West Hollywood, and we had a really strong quarter. Citywide visitation remained strong through the third quarter of 2005 with over 2.7 million visits in July, 2.78 in August, and 2.5 in September. So it's been a steady travel season with only a modest dip in the peak travel months. Hotels continue to perform well with occupancy rates of 69% in July, 76% in August, and 73% in September, with the average daily rate rising from $327 to $345. Retail remains stable, holding at 10.7% vacancy, while office vacancy rose slightly from 12.7% to 14.9%. Yet office rent increased to $59.0 per square foot, suggesting continued demand in prime corridors. On the small business front, the city rolled out several concrete tools to drive business restoration. The WeHo Loves Locals gift card program launched in September, offering a 50% bonus to shoppers who buy cards redeemable at local businesses, and I believe that they recently relaunched that. So please go online and get your business cards. The business lease renewal rebate expanded July 1st, 2025, now applies to all businesses that sign 5-year leases, helping keep tenants anchored and commercial corridors active. And the city also formally established the Rainbow District among Santa Monica Boulevard from La Cienega to Doheny Drive to promote the LGBTQ plus and cultural and nightlife businesses. So I think taken together, these indicators really tell a story of resilience with visitors returning, retail being steady, and the city investing in programs that really help long-term tenancy and local spending. So as a commission, I just hope that helps us as we frame our decisions through that lens. Also, just like to formally extend our congratulations to Jackie Rocco on being selected as WeHo's next city manager. And thank you go out to David Wilson for his service, and best wishes to him as he starts his next chapter. I also like to wish everyone on the commission a happy, healthy holiday season and every happiness and success in the new year.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Does any other commissioner have any other item to bring forth? All right, we can move to item 13, which is adjournment. The West Hollywood Business License Commission will adjourn to its next adjourned meeting, which will be on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in West Hollywood Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers 625 North San Vicente Boulevard, West Hollywood, California, 90069.